It was an early June morning, and about 15 to 20 of my classmates are getting ready to load up leaving Omaha Airport. We are going to stop in Atlanta for a short layover, and meeting us there is another group from California. They are also going to be touring Europe. Here is a church we went and saw at one of our first places in Vienna, Austria. That is something we saw a lot of. There were churches everywhere. Churches were a big deal. As you can see, this church, though, apparently had some storm damage because the roof appears to be caved in. They are getting ready to fix it up. Here's a picture of an overview of all the street vendors. What makes this amazing is that people never drive to these places. They always walk. And while we were there, we tried ordering chicken from this vendor, and of course, who would be working it but a 10-year-old boy? Fortunately, the 10-year-old boy knew English better than we knew his native language, so he was able to help us. What really got us in trouble was when they started measuring everything not in ounces and pounds, but in grams and kilograms. My classmates and I were lost. That was one thing we did not prepare for. Here's a picture of my entire class without the California group. We had 5 sponsors there, and the lady in the front right was our teacher. We were fortunate to have her because she has actually taught in Europe before. Her favorite language she said she's ever learned was German. Here is me looking pretty confident that first day as we are getting ready to load up to go deep into the salt mine caves. Now, I have to admit, I never really thought about where salt came from, but this was a pretty neat experience, and I'm glad I was able to do this with a lot of my friends. This really was a lot like a roller coaster. They had these roller coasters, or what they called trains, that went into the cave. We went so deep that our ears actually popped when we got in there. By the time we got to an opening, it was as big as a church. It was ginormous. This is me and some friends and the rest of my classmates that you can't see, and we're getting ready to eat at a restaurant. Now, the one thing I have to talk about, because I see the water bottle, is they actually like to drink fizzy water. It's carbonated water. Personally, I didn't like it. Now, this was something really cool. This was called the Holy Right Hand of St. Stephen's at St. Stephen's Basilica in Budapest, Hungary. They actually take this hand, it's still in the case, and they walk it out, and it is the lead of their parade that starts off with the Constitution and to celebrate St. Stephen's Day. Here's some examples of not just the church at St. Stephen's Basilica, but churches throughout that we saw. As you can see, whether there is light coming through the window or not, the colors are magnificent. I can't believe how much detail they put into stained glass windows. Now, this may not seem like a big deal to a lot of people, but to me and my classmates coming from a small town, this was. This was us leaving a subway station. Now, I have to admit the subway was kind of scary because we always see things about like New York, but these subways were clean and the people were nice. This is a tomb of an unknown soldier. This was put up during World War II, and it was initially put up for one soldier, but now it's meant to represent all the soldiers that never came home. This picture kind of takes you back in history because the side of the building was left like this from World War II. This is the damage that buildings like this and all around sustained. They chose not to ever fix it to be a reminder. This was pretty neat too. These are actually pamphlets that were around during that time, and it looks like they're just laying on the ground, but actually there is some sort of seal on top of it, so water can't get to it and you can't actually pick it up, but it's there again as a reminder of World War II. This is an awesome bridge. Now, I have to admit, I'm not really an architecture kind of guy, but this bridge is in Prague, Czech Republic, and each little statue is either of a saint or it tells a story of a saint or some sort of biblical figure. It was amazing. Now, unfortunately, we all ran into quite a bit of rain while we were over there, and I think that's kind of common for them. So this is us dodging rain bullets as we wait for some classmates to show up. An interesting fact, all the windows we saw, none of them had screens on them because bugs aren't a big deal there. This was a dark reminder of World War II. This was a statue put in front of Krakow concentration camp. This was one of the biggest places I've been to with the most people, and it was by far the quietest. I think people were just in shock. Now, they actually had quite a few of these street vendors or street type figures that would stand there as statues, and you actually thought they were statues. This guy did a particularly good job because we were making fun of him, but as you can see, he eventually caught one of us. One of our last stops while we were in Vienna, Austria, before we went home, was at the Hard Rock Cafe. Now, this place had all sorts of memorabilia. You could get t-shirts or keychains or any type of medal you wanted. I just chose a t-shirt, and I still have it today. Here we are, sitting in an airport, waiting for our airplane to arrive so we can go home. Overall, I had an amazing experience on this trip. The food was for me, but nothing McDonald's couldn't help me with. I also want to thank Nicole, who got all these pictures for me.